Episode 68, The Art of Saying No. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. Today, I feel so blessed to be able to bring to you an international best-selling author. How does that sound? So at the time of the recording, her book had just released. We'll talk about that during the interview. And she was just skyrocketing in book sales all over the world. What's really exciting is ours was the first interview with her since the launch of her book. So I'm really excited to have her here today. However, her book is really just a part of this story. She actually works with healthcare and wellness providers, and she has a beautiful message about boundaries and how important they are for all of us in our world. So I hope that you will take a listen. I think that you will also be very blessed by listening to this interview. So let's get started. Well, everyone, I just want to tell you how excited I am that I have a dear friend and another coach. That happens to be the world I'm in, folks, but I'm bringing one with a little bit different perspective than we've had in the past. And I want to introduce to you Jen Guadet. Now, I know you go by different names, so...
Jen Guadet is great, and I'm a human performance specialist.
Awesome. Wonderful. So, Jen, I really love the mission that you're in because it so closely aligns with what I'm doing. And, I call mine Live Your More. Tell me about what you're doing with people and helping them find their way to live their more, in my words.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So for me, I'm really passionate about boundaries. My overarching mission is really bridging the gap between healthcare and wellness because there are so many holes in our Western medicine. And also really, I firmly believe that every man, woman, and child on earth has a God-given right to quality healthcare, nutritious food, clean water, access to sick care when they need it, but really access to improved quality of life. And I thought that I was going to do that through being in medicine. And I spent 19 years as a physical therapist and a strength and conditioning human performance specialist. But it wasn't filling that overarching need. Here in the United States, as I'm sure you're well aware, medicine keeps getting more specialized and they take pieces away. And when I started physical therapy in the 90s, it was holistic, and I got to talk about nutrition and I got to talk about mindset because all of that played into the healing process. And towards the end of my healthcare career, it was very compartmentalized. And I'm sorry, Miss So-and-so has a knee problem. You only work with her knee. Let's forget about nutrition and how important it is to healing. Let's forget about she's afraid to put her weight on her leg and the mindset that goes, let's forget all of those things, just do the exercises for her knee. Oh, and by the way, you can't do core exercises because core and knee are two different body parts. So it really has... Yeah, it really has compartmentalized a whole heck of a lot. And I think it's the pendulum swings, and it was really far into the evidence-based and the regulation. I think it's starting to swing back finally now, but I realized that there had to be something more. Yeah. And so I found coaching, and part of that journey was my need and my belief and my mission on earth. I believe that I have these gifts that I was blessed with, and I wasn't living out my God-given potential in that role. And so I was working a lot of hours, and I wasn't fulfilling my purpose, like my deeper sense of purpose, because they were putting me in this little box. And so I got very burned out. And I didn't even realize I was burned out. I didn't realize that I wasn't setting boundaries. And one day, my husband and we went on vacation. It was the first night of vacation. We desperately needed it. And he asked me for a divorce. And I had no idea. He blindsided me. And basically, it boiled down to I was giving everything to my job. And my job wasn't giving back to me. And so I was kind of, evidently in his words, miserable to be around.
I suppose at the point where you're asking for a divorce, you no longer mince words, do you?
Right. It basically boiled down to I never had enough time for him. I never had enough time for my family. I wasn't happy. And really, I was just burned out and depleted. And so I've kind of made it my mission to help other people find healthy boundaries, particularly people who provide healthcare and wellness services.
So, so first of all, I want to complete the story. You did not get a divorce, correct?
I did not.
I hate to leave people hanging with that thought that, that's where the story begins because you.
But right. So it has a happy ending. It was the wake up call I needed. That said, and I had known, Lana, I had known for a little while that my career path had to be coming to a close. Because while I loved working with people while I was with them, I didn't even want to get up out of bed in the morning. Like I didn't want to get out of bed. And I worked so many hours. I was so tired. I didn't take care of myself. And I would be crying in the closet because I didn't want my daughter to know. And I didn't want my husband to know. I was trying to be strong because, I'm the rock. But long story short, that blindsided gut punch that I got that day, I found myself a coach to work through my issues with burnout and to really find what I was passionate about. And ultimately, that's how I found HCI and became a coach.
Wow. What I've got goosebumps because that's such, I mean, you could be my poster child for the story of, God whispering in your ear saying, honey, I've got more for you. I've got so much more for you. Come on, let's go do this. So thank you for listening because you have so much to offer the world. And we were talking before we got started here. You'll have to go check Jen out, but she just has an amazing practice down in the Texas area. And she's got some really exciting news this week that I would love for you to share with my audience, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, so you're officially the first person to interview me and ask for this.
Really?
So
well, maybe you're not ready to go.
I officially have my book on boundaries launched. The official launch is next Wednesday, August 28th. And so the title of my book is Over My Dead Body, The Art of Saying No. And it's a step-by-step journey towards boundaries that stick. I'm super excited about this book. I actually just launched pre-sales yesterday and I've already sold over 50 copies. I'm like, 50 people want my book?
Yes. And that's just the start. And thank you for sharing that news with us today. This will launch. Actually, it'll be the Tuesday after the launch. So it'll be perfect timing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm so excited. I love the name of it. I know that you had put out there kind of a question for folks to vote. And I really love the one that you settled on. That's perfect. And boundaries are so important. Everyone needs to I mean, we talked earlier about the fact that I'm actually offering a Bible study group. And so I'm excited to be able to incorporate some of the stuff, maybe even from your book in my Bible study group that I'll be leading here this fall. But so tell us about your coaching and what that looks like. Let's say that there's someone listening today and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to this woman because yes, I can see me going down that path. How could they work with you? Because if they're in South Dakota and not Texas or whatever, I mean, what would that look like and how could they connect with you?
Right. That's a great question. So probably 50% of my practice is virtual. So I do a lot of video conference coaching. If you're not local to here, I coach clients all over the world. I have someone in Australia, I have someone in UK, Canada, all over the United States, South America. So I do not discriminate on where you live. I am all about inclusivity. But my clients are healthcare providers, wellness providers. So physicians, nurse practitioners, nurses, people in the healthcare industry, chiropractors, anyone who is a healer by nature, because they hold a very special place in my heart. And I work with healthcare and wellness providers who are feeling overwhelmed, depleted, or stuck in a rut. And so I help them to re-energize their body using physiology and psychology and mindset and all the skill sets that I had in my prior career plus coaching. And then I help them to really reignite their fire of motivation. Because when you go into healthcare or wellness and you really do care about other people, you're a caregiver, you want to show up to help people. You feel called to do that. And so many times when we are overwhelmed or we're depleted or burned out, what happens is we lose that spark and we forget that piece of us and that nurturer and that healer inside of us. And I tell you, Ivana, I am so passionate about helping people reignite that spark, that passion, that purpose that they have in life. Because the ripple effect, the lives that they touch, it's giving me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps to talk about this. But what I have seen is just such a tremendous wave of impact by working with healthcare providers, because every patient they touch, their families, their friends, their coworkers are lifted up when they reignite that passion and purpose inside of them. And so I really, really enjoy helping them maximize their business and their life, because it just makes our world so much better.
I love that so much. And truly that's my message, in Living Your More, is that we all have a calling. We all have a purpose. And so the people that I work with may not be healthcare providers, but they're placed in whatever environment that they're in. And God is saying, I want you to be the light. I want you to show people how to live in grace and be kind and help people. And so whatever field we're in, it's, longing for more doesn't necessarily have anything to do with transforming our lives the way you and I did in going into a different field. It's more about whatever is authentically our calling, taking that, embracing it, taking care of ourselves so that we can do it well, and just building on the strengths that we have and offering that to the world, right?
Oh, you're so right. And some of my clients in particular, they don't even know if they want to be doing what they're doing anymore. And some of them, we talk through that and discover that, hey, no, we do need to switch career paths.
Right.
But a lot of them, they just have lost themselves so much in the day-to-day and the routine, that just by finding their passion and purpose and reigniting that and really realigning with who they are at the core, it's just amazing what happens. They'll come a couple of sessions, or like, I'm sleeping again. I didn't even realize this was keeping me from sleeping, or my relationship with my spouse is so much better. I had a chiropractor whose wife called me and said, "Thank you for giving me my husband back."
Yes.
It's just so amazing. And the other side of it, and I love how you said, it's not even just healthcare, it's anybody. When we find our authenticity, we also find that connection to what's greater and where we want to serve in our community. I just have found so much, and I'm sure you do too, that once you realign and you do your self-care and you set those boundaries and make sure you're nourishing what you need and in alignment with your values, it's amazing the other stuff that opens up and what you feel inclined to give.
Yeah, which brings me to another amazing thing that you do that I would love for you to tell us about. When you were talking about how your passion is making sure that everyone has access to healthcare and good water and all of that, tell us about your mission field. And was it Vietnam?
Yes. Oh, so that is my true passion project.
Yes. We like passion projects here. So let's talk about it a little bit.
So it's in complete alignment with that bridging the gap and quality care. I have teamed up with a medical educational exchange team that, believe it or not, is based out of Seattle, the University of Washington. And there is a team of doctors, nurses, psychologists, healthcare providers, and they go every year, twice a year, to the Mekong Delta. And they work closely with the medical school there and the hospitals there that are severely underserved. For those of you listening, if you've never traveled very much, I have seen things that I didn't believe were possible since 1900. There's no running water in their hospitals. They don't have kitchens in their hospitals. They don't have pharmaceuticals, medications. They don't have enough medications to go around. So the only way some of these people eat is if their family brings them food. It really was eye opening. And if you can imagine 100-degree temperature with open windows, because there's no air condition, and the mosquitoes, and of course there are mosquito-borne illnesses and things, that in an overcrowded hospital where people are in their beds, and there's also people on the floor. No sheets, no sheets, no pillows.
Wow.
Maybe a towel covering them. Like it really was. It's like some of the old war triage images that you've seen. So if you can imagine, in their community, they're very. It's they don't make a lot of money. Their doctors are very overwhelmed. They work long hours, and all they want to do is help, but they don't have the tools that we have. So we as a team go in and host trainings at the medical school, and we train the doctors and nurses there, and the doctors and nurses of the future, to really emphasize wellness through nutrition and movement and prevention, and give them as much training as we can to help them use the resources that they have. And another really exciting piece of this is, because we go back to the same community year over year, we're seeing improvements that are lasting. And actually, we're putting together, we do Zoom trainings sometimes. We communicate in between the mission trips. And by, I believe, 2022, they have a new hospital that will be fully ready to be occupied, that will have a kitchen and running water, which is huge. So yeah, that's really, really, really my passion project.
Well, and I think so many, and I'm one of those people that really haven't traveled. I've spoken to people who have gone into different missions like that, and I think it's hard for those of us who haven't been there to really get a sense of what it's like. So I appreciate the description that you just gave us, and it's one of those things. I'm going to touch on a little bit, because one of the questions that I had asked you about, questions about faith and things like that, was you came back and you were like, kind of the whole money mindset around people of faith, and how we get hung up on that. And I don't know that I would consider myself to be an expert, but I do know that there is kind of some blockage there, as far as, can we be really wealthy and still be a child of God? Is that really what He wants for us? And I always like to remind people that the Bible doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money, and that the more that we can work towards getting ourselves in a position where we can do missions, whether it's like the one that you described, or the one in our backyard, or whatever. But if we can use our time and talents to help those that are less privileged than we are, I think that's what our calling in the world is. And so I just feel that those of us that have been blessed with much have so many different opportunities, and we just get to pick the way that works best for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for what you do there, and thank you for sharing that. Very, very.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I do work a lot with money mindset, and in the population that I deal with, you would be surprised how many physicians, nurses have issues, the same issues, that they believe that if they have too much money, they'll become something they won't, or they'll be motivated improperly. But the truth is, I have found, when I share what I'm doing, they immediately say, wow, I can't wait to make enough money that I can do that too.
Right.
So imagine what an amazing opportunity opens up when you allow yourself to receive greatly, because when you receive greatly, you truly can give greatly. And holy cow, Vana, I get to have a business that gives back. That's what my business is built about.
Right.
And it's amazing.
I think it's really beautiful. And when we can open our mind to the possibilities of what God can use us for in whatever area He's placed us, And if we can allow ourselves to just go take that next step and then the next step and the next step, he will provide us everything we need to do to fulfill the calling that he's put on our hearts. And we just get in our own way sometimes.
Oh my goodness, you're so right. And you know what it is? We get in our head with, well, I don't know how to do that. But the reality is, if you're listening to this, the reality is, if you are in alignment and you know what your passion and your purpose is, and you trust and surrender to the process, things are going to be placed in your way that are going to facilitate whatever it is you're meant to do. I mean, I had no idea that this even existed, that this opportunity to serve in Vietnam even existed. I got up in front of 700 people in a microphone and announced my big vision. And I pretty much pooped my pants because I had no idea how it was going to happen. And of course, everybody came up to me after and was like, great, how are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I just decided this.
That's so cool.
But on the plane ride home, I sat next to someone who was on this team. Like that is how powerful it is when you speak your truth and you speak your heart and you're in alignment with your passion and purpose and you're energized by it, then the right person comes to you that's going to guide you to the next step. And I truly believe that's always the case. We don't need to know how, we just need to trust and surrender.
Right. I love that. I had not heard the story about you putting it out there and sitting next to the individual on the plane. So, wow, that's really cool. So, one of the things that I always like to do in an interview is to ask my guests if they have a favorite saying or a favorite verse or anything like that. Do you have one that you'd like to share today?
So I have two. Can I give you two quotes?
Sure.
Awesome. So the first one is, your capacity to say no determines your capacity to say yes to greater things. And that's E. Stanley Jones. It's such a powerful quote because I didn't know how to say no. So not so long ago, 2017, I didn't know how to say no. But it really is, when you start letting go of the things that aren't serving you, what opens up is the ability to really, really, truly live out your purpose.
I love that. Thank you.
Or live
You
your
have another
more.
one too?
I do. So it's a Socrates quote. And I actually use this when I coach, because when I talk about setting boundaries and 1% improvement every day, people kind of get a little in their head. But Socrates once said, the secret to change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new.
Mm.
And this has been resaid in a bunch of different ways, but it really is beautiful. I think the root of it is, we're saying we're closing today. It's the sunset, right? And whatever happened today is now in the past, and the sun will rise tomorrow, so we can build whatever we want. It's like a fresh slate. And it's just so beautiful because it's about giving grace to ourselves when we're changing something, making changes, or in a process. It's about focusing your energy on what's to come and what is,
Yes.
instead of what isn't, or really what's possible. And it really kind of defines me as a coach. So I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, that is very beautiful. And I love applying it to the sunset and the sunrise, and how true that really is. So very beautiful. Thank you for sharing both of those.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I have enjoyed this so much. I love all that you're doing. I love the conversation. I'm excited to get about getting my signed copy of the book. Yes. So, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners today that maybe we haven't talked to, or that you want to reinforce, or what would you like to leave us with?
I think that I would love to invite anyone listening who feels like, I'm not fulfilled in my life, or that might be me. I feel burned out, but I don't want to tell anyone. Or maybe when I was telling my story and you're the person who's crying in the closet because you don't, or crying in the shower because you don't want anybody to know. I want you to know that you're not alone. Especially if you're a healthcare provider, 82% of healthcare providers have burnout and or compassion fatigue. And it happens across other industries as well. But that's a really high percentage of people who share the same pain points. You're not alone. And the only way that this can start to decrease away from an 82% incidence is by talking about it. Open up. Reach out to Vana, reach out to myself, have a conversation, find a next step forward. And just know that you're not alone. And there's a whole lot of other people in that boat. And the reason I wanted to share it is because when you're going through it, it really does feel like you're stuck in it and it's only you and no one could understand. But the reality is, so many people are in the same situation. And we're just not encouraged to share it. Social media wants to see the positives and the happy stuff. And people get shamed, unfortunately, for sharing their troubles and their challenges. So just start to reach out. I promise you someone in your circle also is feeling the same exact way.
Yes. Very very powerful words to live by. And we all get to those points. And you're right, there is no shame in saying, I need some help to get through this.
Oh, absolutely. And I am such a proponent of asking for support now, which is a new thing for me, by the way.
I know.
It really is nice to know that you don't have to carry the load. And after all, we never carry the full load anyway.
Right. So this has been so wonderful. I want to thank you for taking the time to come and share with my listeners today. So much good stuff here. I can't wait to get it out so people can learn from all of your beautiful experiences. So thank you and have an amazing day.
Absolutely. You too. Thanks for having me on. Bye.
Absolutely. And we're going to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, there you have it. I told you there were just all kinds of wonderful words of wisdom within this interview today. So I want to thank you so much for stopping by. If you're interested in learning more about Jen, her coaching, or if you want to check out information about her new book, which is called Over My Dead Body, The Art of Saying No, a step-by-step journey towards boundaries that stick. You can find all of that at jengaudetcoaching.com. That's JenGaudetcoaching.com. And I will also put a link to that in our show notes today. So speaking of boundaries, I mentioned during the interview that I am going to be starting a Bible study on boundaries. It's a biblically based Bible study, not necessarily on Jen's book, but I have a feeling that we'll be able to incorporate some of her ideas in the discussion in our Bible study. Anyway, if you're interested in that, email me at vana@vanajohnson.com. And I can get you more information on that. I would love to have you join me. In fact, I'm having it locally here in town, which is in Pierre, South Dakota. If you're not familiar with that, you're probably not going to be able to join us locally. But I'm also going to be holding an online component of that and would love to have you join us for that. So I hope that that's something you might consider doing if you're listening sometime in September of 2019. If you are enjoying this podcast, I would really love to invite you into my Live Your More community. That's on Facebook. And that's where we go in and have a little bit more in-depth conversation about things that are happening in the podcast. In fact, last week we just finished up a 5-day challenge on how to reconnect with the things that matter. You would be able to go in and watch those videos, even though they're not live. There's all kinds of good stuff in there. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the day. I want to thank you once again for stopping by. I know how precious your time is, and I want you to go, be blessed, and live your more.